Welcome to our first ARCS Chat Live. I'm Robin Kilgo, and I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to John Robinette.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this new experiment. We are here to try and reinvent our platform. Basically, this medium was here for us to have a way to discuss issues in our profession, and have a way for ARCS to connect with other members outside of just conferences and socials and other events. So basically, we're trying this out to see if we can make this a little bit more accessible to people outside of just Twitter. Not everyone uses Twitter, and people in different time zones often don't have the luxury of contributing to the chat. So we think that maybe we can cover more ground also with this in a conversational format. So yeah, so looking to I'm looking at my notes here, and it's like not straightforward. I got to work this out too, but so yeah. Anyway, the idea here is that it can also be listened to after the fact and reviewed as many times as possible, which is pretty scary for our end of things, but really useful for you guys. So here's how it's working. We're on Google Hangouts over here. We're broadcasting live, but you guys can still post on Twitter using the hashtag ARCSChat. Also, post onto the ARCS forum if you want to contribute. That's another way to reach us, and we're going to be reviewing that throughout the session as well to see if anybody's contributing. Of course, if you sign into YouTube, you can contribute onto the chat on the YouTube Live. And do recognize that there's about a 45-second delay between the time you post a question on YouTube and the time that it reaches us. Yeah, and also lastly, please pardon if we have any hiccups. This is also a new format. Something's bound to happen, and we'll figure it out. So tonight, the topic is Ask Anything. So, any topic that comes to mind, whether it's about ARCS itself, the conference coming up in Philadelphia, any previous ARCS chats, how do you say it? ARCS chats topics. So, topics we may not have covered that are prescient to you. And even if it's Game of Thrones, we can talk about that. There's a Reddit page, I'm sure, about collections management and Game of Thrones. So anyway, with that, I'd like to also introduce our other participants in tonight's chat. We have Amanda Robinson over here and Danielle Bennett, who is president of ARCS. So they will also be fielding your questions. So let's get started. So Danielle, what's going on with ARCS these days? Anything new you can share with us?
So we are currently working on our strategic plan. So we've spent the last year having lots of conversations. We did a survey in the fall of our membership to actually get more feedback, and we are working on hopefully being able to release our strategic plan in the summer.
Fantastic. What's involved in doing a strategic plan?
Lots of conversations, both with the board and with our members. Basically also thinking about where we want ARCS to be in 5 years, where we need to grow, how we need to expand, what we need to do to expand. So it's really a lot of long-term thinking, and then working on making sure that we can actually implement and get to those long-term goals.
Yeah. So if you're listening and want to ask any questions about what those long-term plans are, by all means, do ask if you have any specifics. So feel free to jump on in. I'm asking the question like it's redundant, but like I don't know what the process is because I've been involved with it. But I think it's pretty interesting to think about where we've come in 5 years and also what the next 5 years could possibly bring. So basically, we're looking to have 20,000 people at the conference in 5 years. So I think it's a pretty remarkable goal. So.
He's joking, guys.
Yeah, joking.
That's going to give you a heart attack.
I'm just trying to get the numbers for contributors, like some controversy. It's going to make the front page above the fold. So, yeah, anyway, so that's what's going on, huh? And any other news about the conference?
So the conference is November 7th to 9th. It's in Philadelphia. Registration is open. We are actually probably, I would say, a quarter filled at this point already. So please sign up early. Don't sign up often, though. You only have to do it once.
Oh, so it's not like voting.
It's not like voting, no.
Yeah, you're supposed to do as many times as possible.
Feel free to book multiple hotel rooms at the hotel, though, because if we fill our quota, it helps us a lot. So
Yeah.
feel free, but do pay for them if you do that.
Mm.
We
Yeah,
have released, what's that?
I was going to say one for your wife, one for your girlfriend.
Yeah, and well, we'll know who won in the morning, right?
Sorry,
We have released on the website a list of session titles, so you can start to look there. More information will be coming very soon about like the full schedule, which ones will be when, and that sort of stuff. But we will be releasing that over the summer.
Yeah. Hey, Amanda, have you had a chance to look at the sessions that have been posted already?
I have. Actually, some of them look very good, and one I'm particularly excited about is talking about the first topic, actually, 9701B1 T-Form SOS Help Needed, Abilities and Knowledge Required as an Art Gallery Registrar. One thing I like a lot about ARCS is the fact that it's so inclusive to registrars in all fields, not just the museum field. So I think that's going to be a very exciting session.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you know what those numbers mean? Is that what?
Absolutely not. I'm hoping to learn at the ARCS conference.
I'm sure the person that's giving that presentation is like, okay, now I got to figure this out. I got to create some meeting for this. So, I have a proposal that got accepted, but I kind of did it on that premise. I'm like, oh, I'll learn about this if it gets accepted. And so now I'm in the stage of like, oh yeah, I got to learn something about this. So,
you're not supposed to admit to that.
Yeah. No, but it's theoretical, you know, in many ways. So a lot of it is to be determined anyway. So I don't, you know, nobody knows about this stuff unless you're a computer programmer. So it's about blockchain. So that's why, you know, it's not exactly a straightforward topic. So unless you guys are way ahead of the curve. So. Anyway, I'm just thinking. So anyway, Amanda, what's going on with you guys these days? Are you working on any cool projects?
Oh, at the Ringling Museum?
Yeah.
I mean, we're always working on something.
Yeah.
We have a very large exhibition that's coming in this summer. It's called The Fabric of India. It was actually just at the Cincinnati Art Museum. It's toured through the Victorian Albert Museum. And it's an exciting project. We've been working on it for years. Our prep staff is busy fabricating away, and the artwork's already here, so we're pretty excited to get that ball rolling. And outside of that, it's just the usual. We've got actually our AAM site visit this year. We're going through the reaccreditation process, and that is, of course, if anyone's been through that, quite an experience. So a lot of work happening. We're doing some renovation work in our circus museum, which is actually kind of exciting because it hasn't happened for quite some time. Is much needed, and it'll be nice to see that collection displayed in a new light. It's always busy there in Florida.
Question: what's in a circus museum?
Well, that you asked.
That place is awesome. You need to go.
Yes, it's so wonderful. But I think my favorite piece is actually a lone piece, and it's a truck that has a cannon attached to the top, and it actually used to shoot people out of it. And that's on display in our wagon room, among other wagons that were used in like the traditional circus display. It's a fascinating museum. You really do have to come. But once we do the renovation, I think it'll be really nice for especially our local visitors who frequent the circus museum to see it in a new light.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. How about you, Robin? Any cool projects coming your way?
I have been doing some just condition reporting up in Miami, which has been pretty interesting lately. Just because it's a skill I haven't used in a while. So, because I live down in the Florida Keys, so for me, it's having to drive up US 1 and go to the land of things, and seeing museums and seeing some of my colleagues up there. So that's been really fun. So, and my family is going to be planning a trip to Chicago, so we can hit a bunch of the museums and places up there this summer, which we're really looking forward to. So, and probably hitting up some of our ARCS colleagues up there to have advice on where they might want to go and stuff. So
That's
kind of it
great.
right now. And of course, ARCS, because conference and webinars and workshops.
Because you don't do anything for ARCS.
No.
So, I mean, for those of you that don't know, Robin's pretty much behind everything that ARCS does in a major way. So she's pretty much the heart and soul of the organization.
Smoke behind the mirrors. 'Cause, like,
Yes.
So
there.
speaking of crazy job-related questions and issues, we had an interesting question come in on the forum that maybe we should go ahead and get to. Do you like how I did that segue? It was almost like I planned it, right? So
Would you like me to read it?
yeah, let's go for it.
Great. This was sent in on our forum, which is at arcs.org/forum, which is used basically if you're a member, you can use it. You can log in. It's kind of a nice private space that you can go and discuss things maybe you don't want to have like a general audience to look at. So this one was sent in, and it says, in doing records for reconciliation, it has become clear that an artifact donated in 2002, appraised in 2003, had no deed of gift signed or tax receipt issued. The object is still in the collection, and the donor has been found. Can I issue a current deed of gift dated 2019 and then issue a tax receipt for 2019 using the 2003 appraised value? It goes on. For our other objects with no deed of gift but with records of issued tax receipt, I am getting the donors to sign a letter of confirmation as recommended by Malaro, 2nd edition, page 205.
Who's gonna go for this one? This is like advanced.
I can try. So first I would say, one, is it already a gift in 2002? So do you have an offer? Have you accepted it? And you have possession. So if it's already a gift in 2002, you're actually confirming that it's a gift in 2002, not 2019. So that's your first step. And then if it is a 2002 gift, no, you couldn't issue a tax receipt in 2019. If it was not fully given in 2002, yes, you could issue a deed of gift in 2019 to finish the gift. Then yes, you can issue a tax receipt. I would question why your tax receipts would ever have a value on them, since that is not our, as a museum, place to actually appraise anything or provide value. So it's not something we have to do for the IRS. That's the donor's responsibility. So anyone else want to jump in?
No, I think you knocked it out of the park, and that's exactly right. I would have said similar things, maybe not as eloquently, but yes.
I took notes, so.
Wow. That is why Danielle is the president. It was a written exam. Nobody else got that one right. So, you guys deal with tax issues like that on a regular basis? I don't work in a museum, so I don't deal with this stuff. So I'm just going to qualify that. That's why it's not at the tip of my tongue. Otherwise, whatever. So.
Yeah, I mean, tax issues come up all the time.
Yeah.
And I am not a tax attorney.
Yeah. From my end, as representing like private collections, tax issues are big, but they're like, I don't want to pay tax on the purchase. I don't want to pay use tax in New York and things like this. So, I know where all the hiding places are. I know where all the bodies are buried. So, that's actually so not true, but the last person to know. But I know where all the bonded warehouses are. I'll say that. So, but yeah, I don't get to deal with deeds of gift and all that stuff. You guys are so lucky.
Oh, I don't know about lucky. We actually had a response on the YouTube page to our feedback from Evelyn, and she mentioned. You want me to go ahead and read her response?
Please. Send it out.
Sure. So she says, not sure about being our about not being our responsibility to appraise. We feel it is our responsibility, but she qualified that she's located in Canada.
So that does make a difference. I can't speak to Canadian law, but in the U.S., we are not allowed to appraise.
Yeah.
I think it's considered like a conflict of interest when a museum starts coming into the game of appraising artwork that it's accepted into its collection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know the places that I've worked at where they've, because back in the day I did work at a real life museum, that when we would have things like, I forget what we would have actually called them, but we would sit there and say, we can help you look at your object. Like if you bring it on the inside, we can help give you ideas about condition, proper storage. We will not authenticate and we will not appraise. Those are the two big things that we always said we could not do, just because it's not there. I mean, there's appraisers, you know what I mean? They are studied in that kind of stuff. I'm a devotee of Antiques Roadshow. I have watched it since I was in high school. You know what I mean? There are people, that's what they do. You know what I mean? So we would just try to refer them to them for help.
Yeah.
Gonna hop in with a shameless plug. Antiques Roadshow filmed at the Ringling this past year, and they aired their episodes in January.
I kept being like, I'm gonna see someone.
You didn't see Jared walking back and forth?
I saw a flash. This is inside baseball, everyone, but we did see one of our former colleagues, Jared, in the museum community. He's moved on to something else now, but it was really funny because I was like, he has red hair. We'll be able to see him somewhere. It's gonna be with someone. It was like, so there was a flash of Jared at one point, which is very exciting. So. Oh, that's interesting. She commented back too. She said they're not allowed to. We are allowed to do under 1,000 value. We deal with more than artwork. Canadian law allows for this. This is why Canada is better. I never it.
Well, that's good to know, and that's why we have forums like this, so we can learn from each other and learn what the differences are in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone joining us from another country that might have another point of view on this?
We can look and see.
I'm not seeing any new flow on the Twitter yet, but I
don't see anything yet, unfortunately.
Yeah. What about, have you guys, like, in the over the course of the season, you feel like anything, any of the topics could require a bit of an update? Like any new thoughts on whether it's decolonizing, whether it's diversity, gender bias, any of the shipping stuff, courier, future of collections management, collections manager as thought leader, any new ideas come to mind since maybe we talked about those things the first time?
I'm always a proponent for emergency planning. I mean, our January chat was about that, handling collections through hurricanes, earthquakes. And I mean, this year has been rough. You know what I mean? With obviously Brazil, and then we had Notre Dame, and then there's been some other ones. So it's just, and from what we've heard so far, I'm in Florida. The season's supposed to be quiet, but it's
how do you know?
What does that really mean, right?
Like, okay, you know what I mean?
One
like
category 4 hurricane as opposed to 3 threes,
So,
and you kind of hit the nail on the head with their predictions. Maybe some more like an active storm, but not a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, there's everything. There's earthquakes, there's fires. You know what I mean? Like we get very hurricane focused down here, but disasters happen all over the place, even small scale ones. That's the thing that we always try to remind people is, a leaky pipe can cause just as much damage as floods and stuff like that. So I'm always interested in that subject personally.
I'm actually in the process of doing a speaking, what's the word? Putting together a lecture on like best practices for a museum in Peru right now, and this is like at the top of my list of things to address because it's a seismic region, and so this is a massive topic, and I'm like looking for all the literature I can find on this stuff. So especially if it's in Spanish, because there's not a lot of resources in Spanish for especially preventative conservation.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think a lot of the decolonization talk that we had came up came from some of Robin's experience working with Native American groups in is it in Florida? Or
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full exposure. I worked for the Seminole Tribe of Florida for 8 years. And then I still am helping some Native American tribes with some projects in different parts of the country. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
I am not, if you couldn't tell, Native in any way. But yeah, no, I still help out parts of the community in that way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was that topic propelled like really mainstream because of Black Panther, or was that like out there before? Like it was obviously out there before the movie, but it then really became, because it feels like it kind of dropped off the, like in terms of, you know, media wise, the attention it was getting is sort of fallen away. But maybe it's because of things like Notre Dame kind of taking its place in the collections management news cycle.
I guess. I mean, yeah, that Black Panther scene, it spoke to me. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, yeah, we stole that. You know, but again, I'm in a kind of a weird microcosm where, like, I go to a lot of places and I'm like, yep, we stole that. You know what I mean? Like, it's back in the day. So, you know, I do think that there's a lot of that in Europe, too. There's a bunch of news articles that have come up about that lately, which is pretty interesting. You know, it's obviously, you go old school and it's still Elgin Marbles discussion.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's an ongoing thing, I think. And I think movies like Black Panther will push them into the zeitgeist for a short period of time. And then they'll float back away. So, yeah, anything that brings attention to that, though, I think is great.
Right. I mean, Danielle, in a gallery like yours, or let's say gallery institution like yours, or is that something that comes up at all?
Yeah, so we talk about a lot, but we do not collect African art. We collect Asian art. So we're always having conversations about the provenance of our pieces. Not only are we dealing with colonial era pieces, but we're also dealing with a lot of Nazi era looted art still. People don't think of Asian art as having Nazi era looted issues, but we actually do. So we are actively doing research on that also. But we're doing research as much far as back as possible. So
is that
could you expand on that a little bit further, though? I'm curious to know, because you think of Nazi looted art and you're thinking of the artwork that was being made in like France and Germany at the time that obviously was considered degenerate and pulled, and you think of like the white Europeans that were making it. How does it impact a collection of your kind?
So we're seeing a lot of we're actively doing a lot of research on our Chinese collection because a lot of it actually did pass through Europe. So you have a lot of Chinese dealers who are actually in Paris in the 20s and 30s into the 40s. And so you actually see them, a lot of the material kind of actually being sold in Europe during that period. Some of it coming to the US, some of it staying in Europe throughout the war. You also see these same dealers moving to New York and all around, or sometimes to London. But they're basically caught up in the same looting that's happening. They're clearly
selling under duress and things of that nature.
What's that?
Selling their works under duress and things of that nature.
Sometimes it's that, and also sometimes it's seized. So.
And for those of you that don't know, Danielle's at the Sackler Freer in DC.
Yes.
So if that clarifies anything, her point of view. So
yes. So.
I mean, but you know, things like, say, NAGPRA have been around for quite a long time. Has that? I mean, not having worked directly with objects that pertain to that. I mean, is that a law that's kind of evolved, or is that just sort of like been the same as long as it's been around? Do you guys know?
I'm not an expert by any means. When I was working at the tribe, now they have a good NAGPRA program. They really started it after I left. And I always refer people in the Southeast to that program. It's with the Tribal Historic Preservation Office over at the Seminole Tribe. They're great. And they're a first stop shop for down here. The thing with NAGPRA, I started out archaeology, and I went to college in the 90s. So that shows how mid-late 90s. So it shows my age. But that's when NAGPRO was really starting to finally be like enacted. You know what I mean? Like it was on the books, and people were feverishly working on their inventories at that point. So I think we're much better than we used to be. But I think there's still a lot of room to grow, because basically it was just like this deadline of like, okay, everyone tell me you got everything. And you're putting the power back with the tribes, which is where it should be. But a lot of those tribes didn't have the infrastructure to support what to do with the items. You know what I mean? So I think right now we're finally seeing that. We're seeing the tribes having the infrastructure to handle the requests and the research. So that's really important. Because I mean, again, it was like the 90s when it started. So that was a while ago. But you know, with all those laws, it was growing pains for a while. Because I mean, when I was in college in archaeology, this is a gross generalization, but the archaeologists were kind of scared. You know what I mean? It was like all their stuff was going to disappear. You know what I mean? They were never going to be able to get it again. And that attitude has definitely changed.
What's the interaction like between, say, archaeologists and the tribes? How does that work?
It depends. It varies a lot. I mean, like, again, the Seminole tribe, my experience, they have an archaeologist program. You know what I mean? So they have trained archaeologists on their staffs. Other tribes don't have that, but some of the larger tribes do. So it just kind of depends on the tribe. And that's always the first person to go talk to. And then, you know, there's a big difference between federally recognized tribes and state recognized tribes. And there's a lot of layers to that problem. It's never clean. It's
Right,
like takes
right.
research and time. But again, the ultimate goal is to put the control back in the tribal hands where it belongs. You know what I mean? To kind of fix what happened for years in terms of grave goods. You know what I mean? And items like that. So it's very interesting. And if you know the right people, you can have very in-depth conversations over beer, usually,
Yeah.
about what happened. So
What's a tribal organizational structure look like to handle this stuff? Like,
again, it depends on the
Yeah.
tribe. Like basically, deep dive now. So every state has a state historic preservation office. It's called a SHPO, right? So when you're on like public lands or you're doing projects, you go through the SHPO to get approval on archaeological projects or, you know, whatever, different laws, different states. But here in Florida, it's when you find a site and you want it registered, you go to the SHPO to get the site number on it, which is the thing that identifies it. If you're on tribal lands, there's a TIPO. So rather than, you know, like let's say a highway is going through tribal lands, rather than going to the state, you go talk to the tribe. And the tribes are the one who issue you numbers and control kind of what's happening on that site. So, but again, when I was working there, they got a recognized TIPO. Not all tribes have that. A lot do, you know what I mean? Especially out west, but it just kind of depends on the tribe. It is not uniform. I'll just say that.
I was kind of curious if there was a Native American version of a registrar in there. It's kind of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're very nice people. They deal with the same things. I mean, I mean, that's why, you know, groups like AAM and stuff, they've figured out, I think, through the years that Native American groups handle things slightly differently, which they should. And there's been books published talking about how to handle items that are native linked. So, you know, they think culturally sensitive, which I guess is kind of a bad word or not the right word anymore, but essentially is what it is. It's being sensitive to the original owner's stuff. That's what I always think of it as. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, no, I was prodding you. Come on. So.
But this is a timely topic because recently there was I'm trying really hard to find it, but I'm blanking on it right now. There was some change into the way organizations can either make claims on federal lands or the way that, I can't remember, something happened recently within our federal government's administration that changed the way people can access federal lands as an organization. And some tribal offices were saying that this is going to be detrimental to them because then they can't have access to these spaces to ensure that if there's materials, archaeological materials there, that they have access to see those first, handle those first, and, you know, make sure that if they're like human remains or other things like that, they can be addressed appropriately. I'm blanking on what it is. I'm so bummed. I recently saw it on Twitter and I can't find it again. But I'll try and find it and then share it. So
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those laws, it's, you know, they're laws. Like they're reasonably static, but then something will change or someone will approach something differently or, you know, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer either. And there's folks out there who specialize in that stuff that, you know, like you have to kind of go to. I always say that, like, I know just enough to be dangerous. Like, I basically am like, okay, I kind of understand that. You know what I mean? So sometimes it takes a little bit to, like, you know, find the right person or talk to the right person. I just know, like, I always try to think when it comes to tribal stuff, I try to look around for who's the tribal representative. You know what I mean? Or honestly, for me, for us working in Florida, we get a lot of people just calling us with anything that even like was remotely tribal, saying, do you guys know about this? And it would be, sometimes it would be like African stuff or Asian stuff. And we'd be like, no, like we don't, like it's not. So, you know, we'd always be like, let's go to the big guns. Let's go talk to the folks up at NMAI, or, you know what I mean? Like one of those groups to kind of, maybe they can help give us direction on who to talk to or go to. So yeah, that was always my fallback. Let me go call NMAI and I will see what's going on there. So.
Yeah, I'm always curious about, you know, our role in these things, but I was even just thinking, but something you said made me think about this. I was curious about, like, if anyone knew people that were dealing with, say, looted objects from more recent conflicts, like, you know, Syria or Iraq and things like that. But I mean, I know that exists, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they're too high profile to be that much talked about, but.
Well, I mean, there was that guy they just found in Illinois. Was that what it was? The guy who like had been like basically pot hunting for years, and he had his like personal museum, and like it was bunks. And they're trying to figure out who that stuff is connected to, and it's from all over. You know what I mean? But the provenance is gone, so it's going to be years. You know what I mean? To figure out where that stuff came from. So,
man,
yeah. Mildly depressing, but still, it's good.
Well, in a similarly weird thing, I maybe 5 to 8 years ago, there was a New Yorker article about the black market for collectors of dinosaur skeletons and dinosaur bones, and how, you know, these things get, you know, trafficked, and you know, they'll find a skeleton in China, and it'll end up in some guy's garage in Florida where he builds it and tries to, you know, sell it, you know, through dealers or whatever. And it's just crazy how that stuff works.
Yeah. Did it go to Florida Man? It went to Florida Man, didn't it? Like
it's always in Florida, unfortunately.
Like, everything ends up in Florida.
That's our reputation.
Yeah. So
we're not all crazy, we promise. Like normal people down here.
Just most of you. So yeah, Florida's the anomaly. So anyway, any movement on the forum or YouTube chat?
We did get a follow-up post on YouTube from Evelyn. She had said, in regards to our collection of indigenous artifacts, which are mostly baskets and paddles, we can't even get our local tribes remotely interested in their material culture.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, it's, you know, sometimes the stuff that we think like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. It's, you talk to them, they're just like, meh, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like with anything, right? Like I've worked in lots of places where, well, okay, I always think of it as like a box of photographs from, and I'm going to say this 1970s, right? That person is like super excited to give you his box of photographs from the 1970s because he thinks it's like awesome. And you look at it and you go, I don't know any of these people. Like, I don't know any of these things. There's lots of shorts, like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, it literally just depends on if they don't, maybe you could just help them, ask them, well, can you help us identify them? Or do you know someone who might be a basket maker in your community that could come and just teach us about the baskets? You know what I mean? Because we're interested, but we don't know how to describe these. My problem is like, I always had a hard time describing certain items because I wasn't raised in the culture, right? So I would be like, basket, brown, like, you know what I mean? Like pine, straw, like I didn't know, but there are patterns and techniques and stuff that if you went and talked to someone for an afternoon, they'll give you like a load of information, and then you can add that to your catalog record. And sometimes it involves you going to those people's houses with a basket, which kind of makes your registrar soul kind of, you know what I mean? But it's that community outreach type thing that I think working with especially Native communities, you've got to do. You have to do the outreach, and you have to have those personal connections to kind of work with them. So that's been my experience.
It's funny. I one of the collectors I work for has a collection of ethnographic objects from the southern Venezuela Amazon, and it's from various tribes down there, and they're not even, most of them are not actually that old, say mid 20th century, and but it's already been basically 2 generations since those things were made, and so they've kind of moved on. They don't do things like that anymore. So and so much of that culture now is about making things that they can sell to tourists. So as opposed to having things that were legitimately used, because they don't necessarily need to sift the flour in the same way or whatever. They don't make the houses the same way, etc. So I mean, I kind of get that they may not have that much interest in some of these things. From our point of view, it's super fascinating, but yeah, they just clearly change their ways. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing too is you're working with a living culture, so you're gonna have stuff like, one of my favorite things in the Seminoles collection was so Seminole do patchwork, right? And the patchwork has been used in different ways and through modern ways. There was a members only jacket, like from the 1980s, with awesome patchwork across it. And I just remember being like, this is such a weird what I mean? Like, that is crazy that it's like a members only jacket. The thing that I remember everyone having in the 80s had this awesome strip of patchwork across it. And it's not something that you would think of as being a historic piece, but it's a cultural piece, right? It was showing the combination of the two cultures. So I always felt like I couldn't sit there. I had a hard time being the judge to be like, this is a historic thing. This is just more like a cultural thing. And this is something that maybe someone in the future, my kids are not going to know what a members only jacket is. That's for sure. I hope not. Who knows? Who knows? Overalls are back. I didn't think overalls would be back, but overalls are back.
So, they are back.
do people just still wear them with just one strapped?
I've seen some. I've seen short overalls. Like, I never thought I would see those ever again.
I don't know if the one strap's very cool anymore, but they're definitely back in style.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure Urban Outfitters ripped off that members only jacket idea.
It was amazing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I love that thing. That was one of my favorite pieces, just because it was so kooky. But again, it's I've seen that too. That it's sometimes you'll see stuff made for more of the tourist trade, but that's okay. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of these tribes are surviving on. You know what I mean nowadays. So get examples of it. Why not? You know what I mean? Like, just have them. So.
Right.
We've got a little bit more feedback on our YouTube feed.
Yeah, what's going on?
Melanie's asking, she says it's totally unrelated, but she's in the realm, if you will. She said, will there be any ARCS chat meetup or component at the conference?
Ooh.
That is a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So I would love to hear her feedback on what the format should be. Like, we could totally do that. I've actually never met Amanda in person, for example. Maybe we could meet, and that would be fun. We could actually have it physically live, and we could do the same format again with the four of us, and yeah, we could do maybe what we could do. I'm just thinking about this now. We could do sort of a daily roundup. That could actually be kind of a fun thing.
Yeah,
I like that.
Sessions that we saw, and we could do like a red carpet thing where we talk about people's outfits.
The Met Gala.
Only if they're in overalls, though.
Oh,
yes. Overall, it's like the theme of the conference. The fashion theme of the conference is overalls. So
It's all about those pockets, guys.
So I actually, full disclosure, I do wear overalls, but they are legitimate. They're still working. So, so not the ones with the shorts, so.
Are there any other ARCS chats that you want to talk about that we did previously this year that you thought were really exciting? I know that we talked about the pink collar. Everyone got a little excited about pink collars in our field.
Right. That's a rough one. I don't really have anything to add to that one.
Come on, like, I think it's always good to talk about. I mean, I will totally raise my hand and say that that term pink collar like raises my hackles like super fast. You know what I mean? But
sure.
it just does. You know what I mean? Like certain things do.
Yeah. Well, ARCS recently has, and this is on the website, we are now only posting jobs that post a salary or compensation. So that is a slight new development from our point of view. And we are encouraging the same for internships, although it's a slightly more complicated issue. But yeah, for the job postings, that is a tact we've recently taken. So, but yeah, otherwise it's it's going to continue to be a major topic for I predict at least a generation or two, because it's I mean, these things don't change overnight. So,
No.
but I mean, we're certainly trying to tackle it with the. I mean, you saw that with the nominations that we had, the call for nominations that ARCS had this year. I mean, leadership and diversity is one of the themes that we highlighted, that we are looking for people to take a special interest in, and so we think we found somebody to do that. And so I don't know. Any other thoughts on that, Danielle?
No, but I think you'll see a lot of in our strategic plan when it comes out about how we move the field forward, how do we become more inclusive, how do we start to also increase our presence within the museum field itself and raise our profile to really become a voice at the table. So I think that's a lot of what ARCS is interested in doing, but that is something that we will have to do for the next 100 years.
Yeah,
it'll never stop. The conversation will always be there. So
yeah, for sure. I had a thought I was totally gonna riff on that, and I blanked out. So I thought I heard a champagne bottle go off, but anyway, just hearing things. So yeah.
Do you want to know the news?
I do. I'm intrigued.
Do you want to say what Melanie said first?
Oh, sure. So Melanie had commented that at the last conference she loved the app. Go, Robin.
Good.
And it was fun to share nuggets of wisdom that they heard in sessions there, but they weren't saved. So maybe encouraging attendees to share on Twitter and using our hashtag might be a nice way to keep track of some of those conversations, which is an awesome idea.
Yeah, we are doing the app again this year. I'm building it now slowly. It's going to be the same basic app that we had last time. And actually, it was really funny to us because, we did our app, which we loved, and it was really good. And I think people enjoyed it, generally speaking. And then next thing we know, everyone was going to different conferences, like ERC. And what was the other one someone told me? Oh, ISAFAT and someone else. And they were all like, they're using the same app. And I was like, yes. I was like leaders in the field. So we are doing the app, but the good news is that I think this is listed on there, that we are going to do another quickie session on using Twitter again, with Mark Schlemmer is going to be back with hashtag I tweet museums. So we're gonna have more people, which is nice. So we'll still have the app and people can still discuss on the app, which a lot of folks like that. But then we'll also still have our hashtag and people can go out on Twitter to talk as well. And we'll be able to kind of keep them that way. As well. So more people means more fronts people can be discussing on, so which is really nice. So that's a cool thing. And I think, don't quote me on this, but with the app, they upgraded a couple of the features on it where you can link to video and link to photo albums and pictures now too. So if we do a video project, we could directly link it in the app pretty easily, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
I got to say the app, the way that ERC used it was really impressive. Where they could do live polling, and I imagine we can do it too. It's just a matter of having the session to actually utilize that. But it was pretty amazing to have the poll results show up on the screen behind the panelists as it was happening. So
yeah, I mean, basically, if there's a session that you want to, there's basically a part of that app that we didn't really dive into the last time because it was kind of new, where there's a gamification to the app that we can use, and there's a lot of poll features and a lot of that. So the nice thing is since we've used this app before, we understand the basic setup of it. So we're going to be able to dig into a lot of these second layer features a lot more this year, which is kind of exciting. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
Any thoughts on when the app might be available? Because I want to start using it like over the summer.
I'm guessing I'm planning on August, September.
Okay.
It's just, you have to load in, you need certain elements to load in before you can actually launch it onto the App Store. I have most of the framework there, but it's just like stuff like the hotel maps and like that kind of jazz. We have to do all that stuff. So as soon as we get it, I'm going to load it and I'm going to launch it on the App Store as soon as possible. And when we do, we will put it out on social media. We'll put it out via our biweekly ARCS update. I'll splash it everywhere I have access to so that people will know about it. I promise. Yeah.
Amanda, what are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at what Robin said, but we're getting some funny suggestions on the YouTube feedback. One user wrote, could we play a museum themed clue for our meetup? I think that's a great idea. I mean, keep them coming.
That's awesome. All right.
But it absolutely would be great to have some type of social gathering for ARCS chat. Maybe that's the way we can work that in.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe what we could do is have a, I've seen other podcasts do this where they do like the live version of their podcast where they have their panel, but it's like, it's at a bar and, the guests are there and, you can ask questions and stuff of the panel. So it'd be like at a cocktail party or something after the event. No, but I was just thinking about the clue game. Like, what would be the objects that people get killed with? If it's not going to be a candlestick, it's going to be
the Liberty Bell. We could do it themed for Philadelphia.
I was like,
oh yeah, there you go.
Fumes from B-72 combined.
Oh, that's good. It's even better.
What else?
Boxing gloves. I mean,
yeah. Suffocation by gloves. Like,
Dad with the X-Acto knife.
Yeah, definitely. What else?
And you need locations too, so it could be in the storage vault. It could happen in Gallery 1.
Yeah.
All those things.
There you go.
That's
the director's office, naturally.
I think we need a game master. We can add that to the strategic plan, right, Danielle? An official game master for ARCS.
Yes.
It's a thing.
I nominate John.
What? I got so many things to do already. Stretch too thin.
More
You
things.
never really, you just tell me no.
More things for John.
Yeah. So, no, I think we got to do some version of ARCS chat at the conference. I think that's got to be a given. So.
I think there's going to be a chance for some breakout rooms. At least that was kind of, we threw around that idea. So, and I'm all for that idea because I think that there's enough specializations amongst our group that, if all the ARCS chat people want to get together or all the gallery, that kind of deal.
Yeah. I
think that'd be awesome.
So yeah, if you have ideas for breakout rooms and you want to lead one, let us know.
Yes.
Please. Oh, great.
Email us at info@arcsinfo.org.
That's what it's there for.
Please.
Yes.
Love emails. I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah, and I think it's also like in general, like ARCS exists because of your feedback. So if whether it's strategic plan, whether it's conference, whether it's ARCS chat, whatever, please send your questions or comments to any channel, whether it's info@arcsinfo.org or #ARCSchat on the forum, whatever. I mean, we are not creating programs and programming in a vacuum when we sit in a room and in a vacuum and create all these things. No, but seriously, we do want the feedback, and even especially concerning this new format that we're playing around with tonight. We'd love to know if you want us to keep using this format. If you'd like to see us, remove the video and even make it into a full podcast. This is also something we've discussed. So there's, or we can do straight interviews as well, utilizing the same format. So, with special guests that we would invite in. So, I mean, there's lots of possibilities, but again, your feedback is definitely welcome and appreciated. So, any other news from our other platform? I keep checking the Twitter and I'm not seeing much. So.
Yeah, not much on Twitter. Evelyn was kind. She said she really enjoys this format.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. I wonder. I wonder what time zone she's in. If she's on Eastern, or if is there further east in Canada? If it's even later over there, so like Nova Scotia or something like that must be. It might be further east.
I think we're as far east.
Yeah.
One of these days, my goal is to go to Labrador. I know some people want to like climb Machu Picchu in their bucket list, but I want to go to Labrador, mostly because of the name. So any thoughts on any ARCS chat topics you'd like to see coming around the next season? Any thoughts on that? I mean, certainly current events will happen, but yeah, any recommendations? I'm talking mostly to you people listening in the outside world. Basically, Evelyn and Melanie. I mean, personally, so I think I would like to almost redo some of the previous seasons and go back to even maybe the beginning of ARCS chat in general, and kind of re-examine some of those topics. And because hopefully this is a format that we can make available, the same discussion or similar, or maybe even updated discussions that people without Twitter accounts could actually participate. So that's a thought that I had, and I mean, I'd probably go back further, and there's always legal issues that need to be addressed, and that stuff changes a lot. And so, not this season, but the previous season, we had Ann Young come on, and she led us through a lot of problems. And she was on even earlier with Mark Slimmer when he was doing ARCS chat, and she just released her new book on rights and reproduction. So that kind of guest oriented version of the chat would be something that I'm looking forward to doing. So I think it would take on a totally different feel, when in the conversation form. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But any thoughts on guests that we should have?
I'd like to see some conversations about some new books that have come out. Getting some authors on, and maybe also some museum leadership bloggers.
It sounds like you have some in mind.
I probably could find a few.
Or what are some blogs that you read?
Oh man, I'm never gonna get the names right now.
On the spot.
I listen to Galler Gap, which is a podcast.
Yeah.
Museo Punks. I listen to more podcasts than I read blogs because they show up in my feed.
Yeah. What are your podcasts? Especially collection related. Not that there's that many actually, but
there are not that many. I've been recently listening to Museums in Strange Places, which their current season is on museums in Maryland. Since I live in Maryland, that's an attraction. I've been to a lot of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a handful out there, but there's not that many. And I tend to go for the ones that are more honestly gender focused, talking about leadership gaps, underrepresented communities within museums. So,
Yeah. What about you two? Robin, Amanda.
Well, probably Robin can outdo me on the podcast, and she listens to a lot of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
let me think.
Kids and Sisters.
Gallery Gap, I listen to every once in a while. Stuff You Missed in History Class, actually.
That is a good one.
I listened to that one too.
I never heard of that. I gotta put this on the list.
What else?
They were just at the World War II Museum in New
I
Orleans.
listen a lot. My Favorite Murder, which is not museum related, but hey.
We talked about
I listen to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Found a podcast. No, you're fine. I like to listen to ones that are like preservation focused, and there's one called the C Word that's all about conservation. It's called like the Conservators Podcast, and they've had some interesting posts as of late. And also, the British Museum has a podcast, and I've tried to keep up with that. But their YouTube channel's been more active than their podcast has been.
Are there a lot of people doing podcasts based on their YouTube, like just using the audio as their podcast from their YouTube channel? I mean, that seems like the logical thing to do, and that's something that I was thinking about doing with this. But
I see a lot of comedians do that, but I don't know if I've seen people in like collections care.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just curious. I listened to a podcast called the Art Law Podcast, which I think is really interesting just because they're dealing with issues that are, they're not so straightforward. They're talking about, whether it's the 5 Points litigation that happened up here in New York, where, developer destroyed the building that was completely graffitied, but the case sided with on the side of the artist, which is a pretty landmark and precedent-setting case, or the deaccessioning of what was the museum up in the Berkshires that took place there. That was highly controversial. So, anyways, things like that, where they, it's lawyers bringing in a guest to discuss this stuff. So that's something that I really like. Plus some. Because dealing mostly with art stuff, I tend to follow those. So there's a lot of art market stuff out there, and some of it is like really. I mean, I don't like it as much just because it's so just like, how do we influence the market? Let's make a bunch of money, and all that, and kind of not really my take on art, but. Not my involvement with it. So I don't listen to those. But anyway.
Well, it looks like we have about 2 minutes left, or a minute. So how are you? Would you like to wrap it up, Mr. Robinette? Or what are you thinking?
Yeah. Do you guys have any parting words? How do you guys feel about this? You like being on camera?
I don't know if I'd say I'd like being on camera, but I'm happy to be here talking with everyone. That's enjoyable. And I love the feedback we're getting on the YouTube, especially when we started talking about podcasts. It's really positive.
Oh, yeah? What are they saying?
Yeah, a lot of active chat. Evelyn was also suggesting the C Word podcast, and Melanie piped up about the Slate Working podcast, especially their series on MoMA.
Nice.
That one's great.
I love that podcast so much.
Which one? The Slate one?
Yeah, I mean, just in general. I mean, not just museum focused, but there's so much I've learned from other jobs. It's impressive.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing I like about podcasts in general, is it's like putting you into these situations and just things you're learning about that you would never have known. You know what I mean? Like I used to listen to audio tapes all the time. Like I still listen to Audible. I still have an Audible subscription, but podcasts have a different level of, I don't know, intimacy, I guess, because it's like just people being interviewed, you know what I mean, and hearing people talk about stuff, which is pretty fascinating. So, and we do cool jobs.
Yeah.
Like, dang it.
I like to throw podcasts on, especially when I'm doing like long stretches of data entry or something that I don't have to like. I can listen to something and still do the work. Okay, I don't have to pay attention, which sounds terrible.
No, it's like half your brain can be turned off. You can just be like, oh, I'm just doing, you know what I mean? When it's data entry, we've all done that. I mean, that's, you know.
Exactly. And I find I get a lot out of listening to podcasts, especially about the work I'm actually doing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. What I do when I have to do that kind of work is I listen to the same song over and over and over again. I just put it on repeat. And it's 100% about rhythm. It's 100% just about you know, getting in the flow of whatever that song is. And so,
and then we find you in a room with a typewriter typing, all work and no play. It's all boy.
Yeah, it's like whenever I do data entry, it's like a Stephen King novel. So.
Yeah, I can't listen to music when I'm writing. Like if I'm writing something, I can't have music with words because I'm just like listening to the words. So it's like, you know, I can't do that at all.
Start typing the words. I do that.
I can't. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's like whatever you're listening to, you're all of a sudden song lyrics appear, and you're like, wait a second.
Right? So anyway.
That's hilarious. Well, I guess we should wrap it up unless there's any more comments out there from the Mark Schlimmer just chimed in on Twitter and said that he's watching on YouTube and he's enjoying the format and definitely thinks it could be valid to revisit the old ARC chat topics and guests. So thanks, Mark, for chiming in. And I think that's definitely in order to do some of that stuff. So, well, yeah, anyway, so I think we're going to wrap it up now. Again, please send us your feedback to whether it's Twitter, Facebook, to the ARCS chat hashtag, or to info@arcsinfo.org. Any other messages for anyone out there? So as of now, this is going to be the last one of the season, but and so we're going to ramp everything up for the fall and start again in September. But maybe if something comes up over the summer, we'll have to, you know, do another one of these just because, right? So we'll figure that out. But anyway, but thanks everybody for participating throughout the year, and we look forward to doing it again in the fall. So. All right.
Great. Register for the conference.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Kind of important.
Do it now.
That means me. I actually have to sign up too. So.
All right, guys.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay. Stopping the broadcast.